Welcome to the John Cady podcast. I'm John Cady, retired U.S. Navy veteran, former minister, man who's experienced a lot. Today I'm going to touch on a classic rock act that deserves much more recognition than what they've received, especially in recent years. There are many great artists who emerged from the 1960s who have become staples and standards of the music business and of our personal lives and our history, including such acts as Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, The Doors, and so on. But one group who basically caught lightning in a bottle, nod to Professor of Rock, is the Chambers Brothers. The Chambers Brothers were a six-piece band consisting of the four Chambers Brothers themselves, George, Joe, Lester, and Willie, along with other members Brian Keenan and Lee Zimbowski. Between them, they had several albums, but it was in 1967 that lightning was caught in a bottle. The Chambers Brothers emerged from obscurity to becoming a touchstone of American culture and American history at a time when the country was very sharply divided. In August of 1967, the Chambers Brothers recorded their album, The Time Has Come. The album would later be released in December of 1967. From this album came basically the title single, The Time Has Come Today. Time Has Come Today deserved a spot on a recent Professor of Rock broadcast. Here, I'm referring to that show again, and because this was the inspiration. Professor of Rock was talking about songs that clocked in at 7 minutes or longer, that became hits, that became cornerstones of the music landscape, and the Chambers Brothers definitely deserve a spot here. The album version of Time Has Come Today clocks in at 11 minutes and 6 seconds. There were 3 different versions of a single release of that song, ranging in length from 2 minutes and 37 seconds, 3 minutes and 5 seconds, and then the final hit single version clocked in at 4 minutes 45 seconds. All in an attempt to be able to get the song playable on most radio stations, because 11 minutes was just too long unless you were into the album radio or progressive rock radio, as bands such as Yes and Rush would begin emerging later on. But like Jimi Hendrix and other artists who experimented with different guitar effects during what was called the psychedelic era, the Chambers Brothers cranked it up to 11. If you sit and listen through the entire original album version, it is a sonic trip that will take you from point A to point B, and you feel like you've just lost all track of time and space. The different guitar effects, the feedback, it was a sonic trip that nobody else has been able to successfully duplicate. They went from being just another R&B act to a band that cemented its place in music history, even for just one song. Upon its release, Time Has Come Today would hit the Billboard Hot 100 here in the U.S. It would also hit the Canadian charts as well. And what would happen then was simply amazing. The song would hit number 11 in the U.S. It would crack the top 10 on the Canadian charts, peaking at number 9. Time Has Come Today would become the Chambers Brothers' biggest hit in their entire history. They had one more top 40 hit following Time Has Come Today. I Can't Turn You Loose, which barely squeaked in the top 40, peaking at number 37 here. It went a little higher in Canada, reaching the top 30 at number 29. Subsequent releases up all the way up to 1974 either failed to crack the Hot 100 or just barely got in there. Even their cover of Shout by the Isley Brothers didn't make much of a dent, peaking at number 83. Surprisingly, though, the Chambers Brothers, despite having 4 African American men, only had 2 songs that would hit the charts on the Billboard R&B. 1971's Funky and Let's Go, Let's Go, Let's Go, both of which were medium to fair chart successes. Funky hit number 40 on the U.S. R&B chart, and Let's Go, Let's Go, Let's Go in 1974 would peak at number 76. Those were the only 2 songs the Chambers Brothers released that ever charted on the R&B charts, which is very surprising. Now, what about the legacy of Time Has Come Today? Well, let's look at that. In December 1967, Time Has Come Today was released just as tensions were ramping up across the United States, as we were becoming more and more sharply divided down the middle as a nation over our involvement in Vietnam. Time Has Come Today was not just a sonic trip that really, took you places when you were listening to it, but it also was a protest song. It was a call to action, a call to stand up and speak out against what was perceived as a bad decision. There were many Americans at that time who wanted our troops home from Vietnam. We felt that the politicians had gone too far and were sending our troops to die for no reason. On a side note, as a veteran and having family who had served in Vietnam, I have nothing but the greatest respect for anybody who had ever been to Vietnam. The soldiers, the Marines, the sailors, the airmen, they did the best they could with what they had. They did what they were told. They did what they were sent to do. The people I blame for what happened in Vietnam are the politicians. Now, I'm not trying to get into the politics of it, but getting back to the history of the song, it was that kind of a charged anthem, a call to action, a call to stand up for what one believed to be right at that point in time. Once it hit number 11, it stayed at number 11 for 5 weeks. 5 solid weeks, just missing the top 10 here in the U.S. But it became one of the biggest selling singles of 1968, and would later cement its place in history as one of those classic protest anthems of the rock era. Now, will the Chambers Brothers ever make the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Only time will tell. Despite having that great piece of music in their legacy, they faded out almost as fast as they arrived. But thankfully, this track is there. This is John Cady signing off for the day. Hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one. Catch you later.